And yeah, well, I'm really grateful to be involved in the Sheffield Digital Festival. It's a really exciting opportunity to speak with you guys. So quick introduction about me. So as Sam's quite rightly pointed out, my name is Joe Miller. I'm a senior project manager at a company called Turner and Townsend. And what we do as a company is we work with major infrastructure clients, people like the Environment Agency, Highways England, and also people like Google and Facebook and people like that. And we help them deliver the infrastructure that they need in order to survive and to function as organizations. So I'm one of these people that's kind of on the cusp of the digital realm, in that I work for the Environment Agency right now, but I'm always trying to pull digital and pull innovation into the organization, and certainly, like Zachary said, they're really slow organizations to adopt all of that, these digital technologies, and become more used to living in that data rich environment. And I come from a bit of a different perspective. I don't know how you felt when after hearing Zachary's talk, but personally I felt really inspired. It's something like, wow, I can do something like that perhaps, but I just don't know what. And this is the same thing that happened to me last time I heard Zachary talk about 7-8 years ago. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I need to do something like my own little spin on this. And that's kind of where I'm coming from here with this talk. This isn't really a talk about the things I have done so much, but there is a bit of that. But actually, where I'm coming from is reflecting on the experience I've had innovating and bringing innovation through organizations, and trying to help you see how to do that yourself if that's something that you're interested in. So this will be it's sort of part talk, part training course, but of my own content. So hopefully that's useful to you. We'll see how it goes. The main thing that I wanted to unblock with the talk is the idea that perhaps that many people have, is that they're not creative, they're not innovative, for whatever reason. And for me, I've actually found that innovation is as much of a process as it is, what you do with it. I've innovated everything from geographic information tools to help planning applications run more smoothly, to championing the installation of 3D concrete printed stairs on a construction site that I'm working on right now. And that's actually the beginning and the end of my innovation journey in the built environment. And so there's a wide range of kind of stuff that you can do with innovation, and I'm trying to keep that idea open in your minds as to perhaps what you could do in innovating for yourself. So you might be interested to hear how I got involved in innovation. So I started my career as a civil engineer, and that started a long time before that, when I was a kid, when I was building Lego, and I was building all sorts of stuff. But what I really liked doing was just, my parents gave me this massive box of just random bricks, and I just enjoyed creating strange things. And also occasionally there was some kind of ready-made set that came along, and the way that I'd like do sort of like a cover version of what Lego had told me to build. And what I found really interesting about that is the idea that you can take something and you can do something else with it, and then it becomes like something new and it has different use. So like the things that I built, so like my Star Wars toy had a new gun on it, to use a very masculine kind of reference there. But this is the kind of stuff that got me into this. And I guess with that, I had that kind of resource there to allow me to explore, and And I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks for people in getting themselves started in innovation is perhaps not having the resources, but also perhaps not having the inspiration. And my biggest lesson, I want lesson number one to share with you in getting yourself started with innovating is trying to get some inspiration. So moving forward a few years, when I joined the last company I worked for, I was part of an innovation group, and we joined people from all sorts of different sectors, all sorts of different technology team, engineering team, health and safety team, like all kinds of different stuff going on. And we kind of needed to bring our team together and try to come up with some ideas. And the place that the guy in the yellow shirt, Martin, took us to was the National Transport Museum in York, and that's where we started our journey innovating as a group. And what I found there, that was really, really amazing, is that there's probably, I wouldn't say there's quite 100 trains, but there's probably at least around 30, 40 different kinds of trains there. And what I learned from going there was how the technology has evolved. And I'm sort of talking more about an evolutionary approach to innovation here, where you pick up a piece of technology and you do something different with it, and it creates a new purpose that serves your current need. If you look at what's done in that museum, you can see that going through history and seeing that time, and how things have evolved through time. Another really good place where I got a lot of inspiration is in art galleries, where you look at how the technique of artists have changed over time, from classical to impressionist to pointillist to cubist, like going through that timetable. It's really, really interesting. And if you can kind of get that feeling for like, okay, I'm on that journey myself, and I'm in this point in time with the technology and the techniques I'm working with. How can I make it a little bit different and move forward and move that environment forward, move that bit of design forward? But in order to do that, you kind of need to take some time out. Now, Martin, who I mentioned earlier, he had a great idea that we were really keen on doing. Actually, we didn't end up doing it, but it's something that's really, really good, is that he got a first class ticket from Carlisle down to Crewe and back again in a day. And that was his time to talk with his team about innovation. Now, maybe you don't need to go quite as extravagantly as that, but the key is taking time out really helps. Now, taking that time to absorb new influences, taking that time out to experiment, all of that is gonna really help you. And it's really difficult to do in our day-to-day work often, and I mean particularly where we are right now, where we're all working from home, and actually we tend many of us are working long hours, so the opportunity to find that time is harder and harder. So if you're gonna get yourself innovating, you've got to have that space. So often I just sit there staring out the window. I've got my window here, so this picture actually kind of reminds me of the window as well, but just like staring out the window and seeing what comes with that blank, empty mind. That's where a lot of those connections come. A bit more on that later when I in the poem that's coming. So yeah, hopefully that will give you a bit more of a hint there. The next thing I wanted to talk about is definitions. So innovation, it can be around in digital. I've mentioned already for me that I've had digital based innovations, and that I've worked with, and I've had like construction based innovations that I've worked with, and then in the environment agency that I'm working with at the moment, there's also sustainability based innovation that we're working with. And it's really key that if you're doing innovation and you're trying to innovate, that you have a definition to work with. Often innovation itself gets banded in with something else in organizations. So it might be digital and innovation, sustainability and innovation. But the innovation bit is, in this talk at least, what's important, and creating that delineation around that is quite key. So there's a great definition here that I really, really like from the Cambridge Dictionary. In the innovation is a new idea or method, all the use of new ideas and methods in another application. And Sackley talked about this earlier. It's like transferring the knowledge from one place to another. That in itself is innovation. You don't have to be a Thomas Edison and coming up with the light bulb. You just have to be somebody who's going to move that light bulb to somewhere where it's not been used before. So yeah, you know, it's not, you don't have to think about the fact that you're not coming up with the original ideas as a reason that you're not innovating, because you know, if you're bringing something from somewhere else to where you are, that is innovation in itself. So just to give you a bit of a curious example of that, this is an innovation that I came up with from my in terms of posting some crockery over to the United States. So we had to double box the crockery, and I couldn't work out how we're going to do that safely. We're thinking, we wrap it in blankets, what we're going to do. Fortunately, I had a light bulb that reminded me of something that was a structure that I'd seen at a water company, at water treatment works, and all of these little all of these little cardboard columns are exactly the technology that I brought from the water treatment works into my cardboard box. And you'd be pleased to hear that all the plates made it safely to the United States, and were well received. So, you know, just goes to show this stuff really works. The next thing, so you've got some ideas, you've got a definition. The next thing you need, as Sackley's mentioned, is people. So getting people around you that are going to help you do that, make it happen. So communities of practice are a common buzzword for this. So what that is there's a group of people who share a concern or passion for something, and they're learning how they can do it better as they interact regularly. That's a definition from Wikipedia, but it's really true. The group that I worked with in my last employer was a community of practice across sectors for innovation. I'm currently in an innovation community of practice at the Environment Agency, and we're working across construction companies, design companies, and the sort of infrastructure client, which is the kind of role that I do, where we're trying to employ these people and embed the innovation in all kinds of different places. And you know, having those people allows you to test your ideas, get feedback on them, get support, get resources, and find out if they're really going to work. And so that if you're going to get an idea into the marketplace, you can get some problems solved before you actually try and do it yourself. And part of that is dealing with people. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in getting innovation off the ground is the fact that you're dealing with people who you have to work with to get them to adopt it. Now, I've said innovation equals change. Does that sounds like, okay, yeah, of course it is, but this is a bit more of a technical definition around change management. So change management is that process of bringing people on the journey to adopt something new. And what you have to do in that process is work with the people, how they're going to react, how you can absorb that reaction and help them go on that journey, and all the soft skills that come with that, and how you plan and manage it. If you ever get involved in innovation, this is crucial stuff, and whether you do it formally or informally, you'll still be doing change management as you go. So people are going to want to challenge what you're doing. Some people will just not use it, and we need to work with the people who are going to be that dismissive of what you're doing, and try and move forward beyond that and build that adoption process. So what that comes down to is creating the right environment. So lesson number 4 here, and you only get to create the right environment when you understand the context that you're working in. So the business model that you're working in, and also the capability and maturity of the organization that it goes along. So your business model might be, you know, like a water company, and a water company, their funding comes from people getting water and being paid for that. So the process that comes with that means that they're really focused on their end customer, whereas somebody like the Environment Agency gets funding from central government, and so they work in a different way for it. And then the capability and maturity point, that's around, how ready are these people to adopt what you're doing? You may not always have a group of people that really want to adopt what you want to propose. In fact, that's normally the case. So, but how far are they away from that is the point to move forward through. And then, so you put that together, you look at who we are as a business, who I am as a business, what am I trying to do, and how easy is it going to be to do that? And that's where you build this thing called a target operating model, which is like a future vision of where we're going. And then your innovation is the thing that plugs the gap between where you are right now, your existing business, and your target, where you're going to go. And so that's where you set that context, and then the change becomes a thing that you can transition through. So with that, you've set the context. The next thing is, how am I going to get this this innovation to work? And if you're already working in a community of practice, you may be looking at a wider group of innovations that you're going to do one after the other or in sequence. And so you need process to make that happen. The British Standards Institute has a really great process on innovation. You can Google it, although I think it does incur a charge to download the file, but it's a really good tool for the process of getting innovation up and running. But then there's also about like how you're going to prioritize your innovations once you know what you're going to do. And key thing around that is looking for something that's going to get the business interested whilst you're doing the bigger, more difficult things. So you've got quick wins, and then you've got longer term plans. An innovation process can often take 2-3 years to reach its maturity where it's delivering anything. The concept of 3D concrete printing I talked about before that we're doing at the Environment Agency, that took around 2 years before it was actually being implemented on an individual construction site, from the point where it was first, the group had first formed and they were starting to work through their ideas. So and that's 2 years where your business is wondering what you're doing, and trying to make sense of the fact that you've been off like exploring ideas and trying to work out what to do. So quick wins really help you there, because they get the visibility, and they help you keep the momentum and keep the interest before you can implement something a bit bigger. So you've got your ideas, you've got a process. The next thing is you've got to make it work day by day and keep momentum going as a team now, and also as people, because you're dealing with getting ideas off the ground, dealing with all of these people. It's really hard to keep going through all of that, and you need to keep getting inspired, keep yourself moving through that. One of the things that I like to do is to keep the ideas flowing, and so I use my phone. I'm always writing stuff down just to get ideas out of my head and keep them going, getting them fed into the group. So the phone's really useful, but a pen and paper. Richard Branson's really famous for having a small a pen and paper in his pocket all the time that he has like everywhere he goes. This is, my phone's the equivalent of that, but you get the idea. And then the other thing to develop that further, or if you need to explore something further, mind mapping is great. You can use paper like I've got here. You can use Miro or concept boards, the digital tools that do the same thing that are really great. And they also, the benefit of the digital tools is you can mind map collaboratively as well. But whichever one you're doing, the important thing is having these habits that allow yourself and your team to keep getting those ideas going. And my colleague Martin gave us this concept of having up to 100 ideas proposed to one implemented innovation as you move forward in an innovation group like this over that course of 2 years. So just think how many ideas you're going to have to go through before you get to that eureka moment of something that's actually going to be adopted. It's, you know, it's volume we're talking here. So discipline helps you build volume. And yeah, the key thing from Guy Kawasaki is implementation. Ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. And he's totally right about this. Especially with these kind of things, if you're doing an innovation, you are the forefront of this new idea, and you've got to go through a lot of disbelief and a lot of convincing people to bring that to life. So you've got to just keep going. So yeah, it's part of building that practice. One thing that can help is thinking about the way in which you do your innovations and thinking again about those quick wins. So what does a quick win look like to me? The example that I like to remember is small, simple, and scalable. It's a really powerful mnemonic to keep in your mind as you're trying to build an innovation. If you just think about Amazon started as an online bookstore, and then they scaled up from that. They scaled up, and now they've got shipping, logistics, like everything for all over the world, and they've really expanded from that. This example on the screen is a SharePoint-based resourcing tool called People Finder that Turner and Townsend built in the southeast of the UK. We built it internally just to help us with getting people onto working with various clients and getting the right skills, and it's basically a bit more sophisticated skills matrix, and you can search it, and you know that's the kind of thing it does. We started it with a group of like 80 people, and now it's grown to be the national tool that we use internally in Turner and Townsend. And we're also now working with certain clients in helping them adopt this tool as well, because it's just been so useful. And particularly this was catalyzed in COVID, where we were able to move people in working in many different geographies. So the ability to work nationally with the same database has had even more power. So, you know, but coming back to the idea, you know, this is a discipline. You got to keep remembering to start small, not be too ambitious when you're first coming up with that idea, so that you can get it moving and get it going. I just want to recap, because I've covered a lot of ground here with a few key points for you guys to take away. Get yourselves inspired. Look at whatever's going to inspire you to get you thinking about new ideas, and some great ideas that have come from somebody else that say, oh wow, I could do this too, like Sackley's talk. You know, this is a key classic idea of a point to get people inspired. Get your definition straight. Decide what you're going to innovate about and what it means to you. I won't say any more on that one. Join a community. Get people around you who also want to innovate and want to do it well. Create the right environment. Work with your organization to get them ready, and so that you can do what you need to do. And then get on with it. Implement, rinse, repeat. Again, and that's how innovation comes to fruition. So, hope you've remembered some of this, and now it's your turn. You know, I'd like to hear in a few months' time some people who have tried to do some innovations and how it's gone. If you want to keep in contact with me afterwards and let me know, that would be fantastic. But yeah, just hope there's some useful takeaways for you there.